Hi everyone, happy July! Our topic this month is vocabulary, and as we all know, vocabulary acquisition is an incredibly important part of learning a language. And we want our students not just to be able to translate vocabulary words, but we want them to actually be able to use those vocabulary words in meaningful communication. But before we jump into talking about strategies for teaching vocabulary, I thought it would be fun to take a minute and talk about why English is so hard. So, why is English so hard? Because we have the largest vocabulary of any language on the planet. It is currently 100,000 words, but it is growing every year. How does that happen? Well, let's take a look here. Here we have a list of words that were added last year to the Oxford Dictionary. Number one is bling, which means showy or ostentatious, shiny jewelry and clothes. And so where did this word come from? It came from the sound. Onomatopoeia is the name for that process. It comes from the bling that we associate with money. It's like the sound of shiny things. I don't know where that comes from, but we took that word and we made it into a noun talking about ostentatious things. Another example, number two, we took bro from brother, we took manse from romance, and we combined them into a new word, bromance, to describe a non-sexual romance between two men. Another thing that we do, like number six, is we take two full words that have their own meaning, drool and worthy, we combine them into a new word that comes to mean worthy of being drooled over. Interesting. This is incredibly difficult for our students. And so we owe it to them to teach them strategies for how they can learn these words on their own. So interesting. The other thing that we do is we borrow from other languages, and we'll talk about that in a second. The English spelling system, as you may know, is insane. Why is it insane? Well, the first cause of it goes back to the printing press. And in the 1400s, when the printing press was created and began to spread across Europe and around the world, there was a huge pronunciation shift happening in England. It's called the Great Vowel Shift, and it happened because people became a lot more mobile, and they started moving between rural and urban areas. People from the north started mixing with people from the south, and it led to this huge pronunciation shift in which all of the long vowels changed their pronunciation. So this is important because this occurred over 200 years, and it happens to be the 200 years where the printing press was also spreading. So the printing press began to standardize the spelling. Spelling had been kind of do-it-yourself. But then as people started setting it down in print, they started standardizing the spelling. But by the end of that pronunciation shift, the spelling that they had standardized no longer matched the way people were pronouncing those words. So let's take a look at that. So here's the word bite, and we're going to look at how it sounded in 1400, 1500, 1600, and 1900.
Beat, bait, bait, bite.
So you can see that in 1400, the sound actually matched the letter. But now, by 1900, it's changed into this I, this long I sound, whereas previously it was this sound. Let's hear that again.
Beat, bait, bait, bite.
And when you look at that word, doesn't it look like it should be beat? Wouldn't that make sense? But instead, it's bite. Another reason for our very bizarre spelling system is the French occupation and influence from 1066 until the 1500s. In 1066, William the Conqueror, who was a French leader, conquered England. And for the next 500 years, the French, or people of French descent, held the power and the prestigious positions in English society. And the English language came to be seen as low class. So all of the words of government and of the nobility came from French. For example, prince, crown, castle, government, parliament, vote, all of those are French words. All the language of art and literature For example, color, language, poet, all of our academic words, biology, history, chemistry, those all came from French. So their spelling is not English spelling, it's French spelling that we took. Sometimes we kept the English word. So we're going to use food examples for this one. Sometimes we kept the English word. For example, sheep, cow, calf, and swine. Those are Anglo-Saxon words. But then when we cook those foods, then we use the French word. We use mutton, beef, veal, and pork. That's why we have those two sets of words. Another example, jail and prison. Jail is the old Anglo-Saxon word, G-A-O-L. Prison is the French word. We kept both of them. And then sometimes we combined two words. So we have gentle from the French gentil, which means nice, and we have man, which is the Anglo-Saxon word for man, and we combined them into gentleman. And so the result of this is that the spelling system is not consistent. And then finally, when we borrow words, they retain the original spelling. So like, for example, gorilla, coming from Spanish, kitsch from German, zucchini from Italian, casserole, I don't know where that comes from, maybe French. But we kept the original language's spelling so that it doesn't match any of our other spelling rules. Totally insane. And so this leads to something called orthographic transparency, which means how predictably the writing system matches the sounds of the words. So for example, Spanish, one letter makes one sound and it never changes no matter what. But in English, our letters do not match the sounds, and that's why we have crazy stuff like the bandage was wound around the wound. The farm was used to produce the produce. We must polish the Polish furniture. The soldier decided to desert his dessert in the desert. That one is totally insane. And since there's no time like the present, he thought it was time to present the present. Our poor students, this is totally insane. So, how do we help them? I hope that you will take a look at the articles that are linked in the newsletter, in the rest of the newsletter, because they contain lots of strategies for helping our students not only memorize words, but learn to use them effectively in real, authentic communication.